My daughter said, "Don't come back after your trip." Margaret Hayes, 74, retired nurse and mother of two, smiled instead of crying. Clara, the child whose fever she once nursed through sleepless nights, now spoke like a landlord evicting a tenant. But when Margaret returned, she didn't come empty-handed. She carried the deed her daughter had forgotten she still owned. For decades she had been mom. Now she was the one holding the keys. And when Clara pulled into the driveway, the locked gate answered before Margaret ever had to. "I'm curious, where in the world are you joining us from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed for all the latest updates." The suitcase clicked shut with a quiet finality that didn't match the storm rolling through Claire's chest. Her fingers lingered on the worn leather handle, tracing the grooves as if it might offer her some kind of answer. Across the hallway, Emma's voice echoed coldly in her mind, "Don't come back after your trip." Claire hadn't responded then. Not with words, at least. What do you say when your only child tells you you're no longer welcome in their life? She stood in the middle of the bedroom she'd helped decorate a decade ago, back when Steve was still alive, when laughter filled the corners of this house instead of clipped silence. The memory of those times sat like an anchor in her chest. Downstairs, Emma was clattering dishes in the kitchen, aggressively scrubbing pans as if they'd wronged her. Claire could smell the lemony bite of detergent, hear the faucet hissing. She didn't want a goodbye scene. Emma probably didn't either. Claire reached into the top drawer and retrieved the folded itinerary Laura had printed out for her. Santa Fe. Just a short visit. A few days with her childhood friend, soaking up desert sun, hoping for clarity. At the top of the stairs she paused. Emma stood by the sink, her back to the door, tension wrapped around her shoulders like armor. Claire considered saying something. One last word. But what? Thank you? I'm sorry? I love you? Instead, she stepped out. The air was still and cold, a sharp contrast to the heat boiling beneath her skin. She loaded her bag into the trunk, climbed into the driver's seat, and sat there for a long moment, hands unmoving on the wheel. The street was quiet. The trees that once held a tire swing were bare now, skeletal branches scratching against the gray sky. She remembered Steve saying once, "Emma will come around. She's just strong-willed." That was before the cancer, before the grief changed them both, before the space between mother and daughter widened into a chasm. Claire started the engine. Halfway down the block, her phone vibrated in the passenger seat. A text preview lit up the screen. "Emma, I really mean it. Don't come back." Her throat tightened, not from surprise, from how unsurprising it was. She didn't reply. At the airport, everything moved in fast forward. Lines, announcements, the smell of burnt coffee and synthetic perfume. She went through security like muscle memory, her mind detached, adrift. Seated at her gate, Claire finally exhaled. She took out her phone again, staring at Emma's message. Her finger hovered over the screen. She considered deleting it, blocking the number. But that felt like giving up, and she wasn't ready to do that. Not yet. Boarding Group A, a voice called over the loudspeaker. Claire stood. She pulled her carry-on behind her and walked toward the jet bridge, with a calmness that didn't match the turmoil in her heart. As the plane climbed through the clouds, she looked out the window. The city shrank beneath her, her house, her neighborhood, Emma receding into something far away, almost fictional. But this wasn't fiction, this was her life, and when she came back from this trip, she wasn't coming back the same. As Claire settled into her seat and silenced her phone, the final vibration buzzed through her hand. "Emma, I really mean it. Don't come back." Claire closed her eyes, the weight of those words pressing against her ribs. But she wasn't one to take orders. Not anymore. Laura greeted me with warmth, but all I could think about was what awaited me at home. The cab pulled up to a stucco house, framed by tall sagebrush and blooming desert marigolds. Claire stepped out into the soft New Mexico sun, the quiet hum of cicadas filling the air like background music in a life far removed from hers. Laura opened the door before Claire could knock, her arms open, smile wide, still wearing the same coral lipstick she had worn since college. Finally, she said, pulling Claire into a hug that lasted a beat longer than expected. You look like you haven't slept in a week. I haven't, Claire said, managing a half smile as she stepped into the house. You know me, I don't do silence well. They had been best friends since age 10. They'd survived breakups, bad jobs, funerals, and a million secrets. And now Claire was here, a guest in her best friend's sanctuary, holding too many unspoken things. Laura showed her the guest room, cozy, with a soft blue comforter and a view of the mountains. Claire set her bag down carefully, like it might explode. It's perfect, she said, but peace was not instant. That night, as they sipped chamomile tea on the back patio under string lights, Laura asked gently, You going to tell me what's actually going on? Claire hesitated. She hadn't said the words out loud since hearing them, but they were lodged in her throat anyway, so she let them out. Emma told me not to come back. Laura blinked. She what? She said it the night before I left, just straight out. No build-up, no yelling, just don't come back after your trip. Like I'm a suitcase she's outgrown. Laura leaned back in her chair, watching Claire with that same old truth-digging expression. What exactly brought that on? I don't know, Claire said honestly. We've been strained for months, since Steve passed. It's like I became this ghost I stayed to help, to keep her steady. Maybe I stayed too long. You were her mother, Laura said. You were grieving too. Claire stared out into the dark hills. She didn't want me. And she said it, out loud. The silence between them felt like sand in her mouth. In the days that followed, Laura tried to distract her: spa days, gallery strolls, desert hikes, but Claire remained distant, mentally stuck between Santa Fe and home. One morning, Laura found her sitting at the kitchen table, old family photos spread in front of her. Emma as a toddler, Emma at her wedding, Emma holding Steve's hand at the hospital. I don't know when she stopped needing me, Claire whispered, or when I became something she needed to escape from. Laura sat down across from her. Maybe you gave too much, Claire, always sacrificing. Maybe she started thinking that was your role, not your choice. Claire nodded slowly. I thought I was helping her, but maybe I was just always there, too there, filling silence that wasn't mine to fill. She's an adult now, Laura said gently. Maybe she needs to fail without a safety net. Maybe you need to stop being the net. Claire traced the rim of her coffee mug. I don't even know what I want for myself anymore. Then maybe that's what this trip is for, Laura said. Not to figure her out, but to figure you out. That night, Claire sat outside alone. The wind smelled like warm earth and juniper. For the first time in months, no one needed anything from her. And still she couldn't stop thinking about Emma. Her laugh as a child, the way she used to crawl into Claire's bed during thunderstorms. Now she was the storm. Claire's phone buzzed. A new voicemail from Emma. She stared at the screen. Her thumb hovered over the play button, then stopped. She wasn't sure if she could take hearing that voice again, not until she figured out what hers needed to say. The moment I stepped off the plane, I knew things would never be the same. The moment Claire's feet touched the terminal floor back in Atlanta, something inside her shifted. Her suitcase bumped against her heel as she walked. But she hardly noticed. It wasn't just post-vacation fatigue. It was the quiet dread of stepping back into a life that had shut its door on her. She hadn't listened to the voicemail. Not on the flight. Not in the Uber. Not even during her layover when she had 2 hours of nothing but time. It sat there on her phone, like a wound she wasn't ready to reopen. Outside the airport, the familiar humidity wrapped around her like a damp reminder. This was still her home, even if no one wanted her in it. The cab dropped her off in front of the house she used to share with Steve, the one Emma now technically owned, but hadn't fully claimed. The porch light was off, the curtains drawn. Claire stood still for a moment, hand resting on her suitcase handle. The sidewalk smelled of summer rain and cut grass, but the house, it smelled of emptiness. She knocked, even though she still had her key. No answer. She tried calling Emma straight to voicemail. Her thumb hovered over the old message, but again she didn't press play. Claire used her key. The house opened to stillness. No signs of Emma. No music. No TV. Just silence. cool and judgmental. Her old room was untouched, at least on the surface. She sat on the edge of the bed and looked around. The comforter still held the creases from when she'd made the bed before leaving. The photo of Steve and Emma at her wedding still sat on the nightstand, but the air had changed. It no longer felt like hers. In the kitchen she brewed tea. The familiar hum of the kettle soothed her for a moment, but the ache in her chest returned with every tick of the clock. She tried calling again. Nothing. She finally opened her messages. "Claire, I'm home. Let me know when you're free to talk." Delivered, read. No response. Claire took her mug out to the porch and watched the sky turn purple. A neighbor waved. She offered a small wave back, hiding the storm under her calm expression. Hours passed before her phone finally buzzed. "Emma, we need to talk, but not today." No greeting, no emotion, just logistics. Claire stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Then she locked the phone, placed it on the table beside her, and took a deep breath. She wanted to scream, she wanted to cry, but mostly she wanted answers. Not just about what had changed, but when. When had she become the inconvenience? Maybe she had spent too long trying to fill Steve's place. Maybe she had hovered, unable to let Emma stand alone. Maybe she had given so much that Emma had started seeing her as weight instead of warmth. Claire looked down at her tea, now cold. No more guessing. She needed the truth, even if it hurt. Claire stepped back inside and finally pressed play on Emma's voicemail. The moment Emma's voice came through, sharp, tired, and unfamiliar, Claire froze. She didn't know what would hurt more, what Emma said or how easily she said it. The truth spilled out in the silence between us, far more than I ever expected to hear. Claire didn't sleep. Emma's voice from the voicemail kept echoing in her head. "This isn't working, Mom. I need space. Real space. Please don't make this harder than it has to be." No shouting, no emotion, just a cold request to stay away. By morning, Claire had written and deleted 3 text messages before settling on a simple one. "I'm ready when you are." Emma replied an hour later. "Come over, noon." The words felt more like an appointment than an invitation. Claire drove in silence, hands gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. Emma and Ryan lived just 15 minutes away, but today the road stretched like a tightrope. Each red light felt like a judgment, each green a dare. She parked in front of their modest 2-story home and took a deep breath before stepping out. The lawn was manicured, the porch clean, everything in its place, except her. Emma opened the door before Claire could knock. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. No hug, no smile. Claire entered quietly. The house smelled like vanilla candles and faint baby powder. Familiar but distant, they sat across from each other at the kitchen table. No coffee, no small talk. Claire broke the silence. "I'm here. Say what you need to." Emma exhaled. "I'm not trying to hurt you, but I need boundaries. Ever since Dad passed, it feels like you filled every space. I can't breathe in my own home." Claire's jaw tightened, but she stayed quiet. Emma continued, "You were always around, helping, advising, fixing, and I let it happen because I was grieving too. But now I need to live my life without feeling like you're watching my every move." Claire's voice cracked. "I was trying to help, Emma. I didn't want you to go through it alone." "I know," Emma said, "but it wasn't help, it was control. You were everywhere. Rearranging my kitchen, offering your opinion on every decision, even how we raised Lily. It never stopped." Claire's shoulders slumped. "I didn't realize it felt that way." Emma's voice softened, but only slightly. "You didn't want to realize it. You filled your emptiness with my life." The words landed like punches Claire hadn't seen coming. "I'm sorry," Claire whispered. "I thought I was doing what mothers do, what you needed. I needed space," Emma said firmly. "And you couldn't give it." Claire looked away. Her eyes landed on a finger painting Lily had made, taped to the fridge. Bright colors, messy joy, something she hadn't felt in a long time. "I can give you space now," Claire said, "but I won't disappear." Emma folded her arms. I think, for now, it's better if we don't see each other. Claire blinked. At all? Emma nodded. For a while, the kitchen clock ticked loud in the silence. Claire stood slowly. You're my daughter, Emma. I love you, but I'm not going to beg to be in your life. I'm not asking you to beg, Emma said quietly. I'm asking you to let me breathe. Claire turned toward the door. I'll always be here, she said without looking back. When you're ready. As Claire reached the door, Emma's voice stopped. There's one more thing, she said. I've been hiding some things. Financial stuff. It's bad, really bad. Claire turned slowly. Emma's eyes were heavy with shame. I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want you to think I'm a failure. Claire stood frozen, her hand still on the doorknob. Her daughter didn't just want space. She was drowning in silence and debt. And now Claire had to decide, protect herself, or step back into the fire. My daughter had been keeping secrets, but the betrayal cut deeper than I ever imagined. Claire sat in her car for 10 full minutes after leaving Emma's house, hands trembling around the steering wheel. She couldn't bring herself to start the engine. The air inside the car was thick, unmoving. Her daughter's confession echoed in her ears like a siren that wouldn't stop. Financial trouble. Really bad. That was all Emma had said. No details, no plan, just the kind of warning that felt like the beginning of a long fall. Claire's stomach turned. By the time she got home, she already had her laptop open. She couldn't sit with uncertainty. Not anymore. She pulled up her credit monitoring dashboard, something she hadn't checked in weeks. There it was. 2 unfamiliar accounts in her name. One a personal loan, the other a revolving line of credit, high balances, recent activity, her name attached, her address. She couldn't breathe. The next morning, she sat across from a loan officer at the bank, hands clasped tightly in her lap. These loans were opened 6 months ago, the officer said, tapping at his screen. Application was processed online. Electronic signature. He turned the screen toward her. This your email address? Claire stared at it. Her personal email, one she hadn't used for anything financial. Yes, she said slowly, but I never authorized these. The officer leaned back. It may have been someone with access to your personal information. You might need to file a fraud report. Claire's head pounded. This wasn't fraud. It was family. By the time she reached Emma's house again, she was vibrating with emotion. Not rage. Not yet. Just disbelief. Emma opened the door looking pale, her hair pulled back in a messy knot. Claire held up a printed copy of the loan summary. You used my name. Emma looked away. I was going to fix it. I swear. You used my name. Claire repeated, her voice shaking. You forged my information. Do you understand what you've done? Emma stepped back, arms crossed. You wouldn't have helped if I'd asked. You always need to be in control. Claire's heart cracked. So your solution was identity theft. Emma's voice rose. It wasn't theft. It was desperation. Ryan lost his job. We were drowning. The bank said a cosigner would help, so I used your info. You lied, Emma. Claire's voice was sharp now. You committed fraud. You didn't just use my name. You risked my credit, my financial future, my freedom. If something goes wrong. Emma's eyes welled. I didn't know what else to do. I thought I could fix it before you found out. Claire shook her head. You didn't even try to ask me. You decided what role I would play and forced me into it. Emma's lip trembled. I didn't want you to see me as a failure. I don't, Claire said, her voice softening despite the anger burning inside her. But now I don't know who I'm looking at. Emma turned away. Claire stood silent for a long moment. Then she reached into her bag, pulled out a folder, and placed it on the kitchen table. I met with a lawyer, she said. I'm protecting myself. I won't let you sink both of us. Emma turned back sharply. You talked to a lawyer? You're really going that far? Claire met her gaze. You already did. Emma's voice dropped to a whisper. I did what I had to for my family. Claire's eyes hardened. So did I. And for the first time, she realized they weren't standing on opposite sides of a fight. They were in a war her daughter had started, without her. I couldn't let her destroy herself, or destroy me. It was time to make a hard decision. Claire stood in the doorway of her lawyer's office, arms crossed, body stiff. She'd never imagined herself here, at least not like this. Legal action had always been something that happened to other families in tabloids, not hers. But now she was staring down paperwork that had her name tied to loans she never took and consequences she never agreed to. "I need you to be honest with me," she said, her voice steady but cold. "What happens if she defaults?" The attorney, Nancy, mid-40s, direct, didn't sugarcoat it. "If your daughter doesn't start making payments or if those accounts go into collections, your credit will take the hit. And depending on the terms of the loan, you could be liable for repayment." Claire inhaled sharply. "But I didn't sign anything." Nancy tapped her pen. "That's what we'll have to prove." Claire nodded slowly. "I'm not just protecting my credit, I'm protecting my sanity." She signed the paperwork. Back at home, she sat in the quiet. The hum of the refrigerator sounded louder now. Her phone buzzed. Emma again. This time, the message read, "Mom, we need to talk, please." Claire didn't answer right away. Instead, she opened her drawer, pulled out a small notebook, and scribbled one sentence across the top of the page. "What do I need?" She stared at it for a long time. Not what Emma needed, not what Ryan expected, not what Steve would have done. Just that afternoon, she met Emma at a local cafe, public place, neutral ground. Emma looked worn down. Dark circles under her eyes, fidgety, but not apologetic. "You talked to a lawyer?" Emma said, skipping hello. Claire nodded. "I did, and I'm taking legal steps to separate our finances, permanently." Emma's face hardened. "I can't believe you'd do that to me." "No, Emma," Claire said, her voice unwavering. "You did this. I'm just making sure it doesn't destroy both of us." Emma leaned forward. "You're punishing me." "I'm protecting myself," Claire replied. "And I'm giving you a choice." I drew up a financial recovery plan. If you agree to follow it, therapy, budgeting help, and full accountability, I'll pause legal action. Emma scoffed. "So I have to play by your rules again?" "No," Claire said softly. "You don't have to do anything. But if you want my help, those are the terms. I won't fund chaos anymore. I won't be chaos anymore." Emma stared at her. "You'd really cut me off?" "I'm not cutting you off," Claire said. "I'm letting you learn to stand." Emma looked away, her jaw tightening. "I'm sorry you feel betrayed," Claire continued. "But this was your decision, Emma. I'm just responding to it." Emma's voice broke. "I just wanted to fix it before it got this bad." Claire reached for her bag. "We all want to fix things before they break, but some things are already broken." She stood up to leave. That night, Claire's phone rang again. Emma's name flashed across the screen. When she answered, all she heard was her daughter's shaky voice whispering, "Mom, I need help. Real help, and I don't know where else to turn." Her voice cracked with desperation, but I was no longer sure if I could save her. Claire hadn't expected to sleep much that night, but she did deeply. The kind of sleep that comes after exhaustion, gives way to resignation. She had set her boundary. The decision had been made, but Emma's voice on the phone at 2:14 a.m. ripped her right out of that sleep. "Mom, I need help. Real help, and I don't know where else to turn." Claire sat upright in bed, her heart hammering. "What happened?" Emma's breathing was uneven. "He came to the house, the loan guy. The one I borrowed from before I used your info. He said if I don't pay this week, he'll take it another way. I'm scared." Claire was already out of bed, pacing the room. "Did Ryan call the police?" "No, he's asleep. I didn't tell him yet." Claire swallowed her anger. "Where are you right now?" "Outside. In my car." "Okay, stay there. Lock the doors. I'll come meet you." She hung up and stared into the dark hallway. This wasn't about legal documents anymore. This was her daughter in danger. Emma sat in the driver's seat, parked down the block from her own house, bundled in a coat over pajamas. Her hands trembled around the steering wheel, knuckles pale. Claire pulled up beside her and motioned for her to get into her car. As Emma climbed in, Claire noticed how small she looked. shrinking under the weight of shame and fear. Start from the beginning, Claire said. Emma exhaled hard. I took out a private loan a year ago. Short-term, high interest. I was going to pay it back quickly. Then Ryan lost his job. I started juggling bills, robbing Peter to pay Paul. It spiraled, and this man came to your door. Emma nodded. He said I had 72 hours, or he'd escalate. Claire's mouth went dry. And the cops can't do anything? I don't have paperwork. He's not a bank. He's just someone I met through a friend. Claire stared at her. A loan shark. Emma nodded again. Claire closed her eyes for a long beat. I'll talk to him, she said. Emma's eyes widened. Mom, no. He's not someone you negotiate with. I'm not negotiating, Claire said quietly. I'm ending. The next afternoon, Claire stood in a dimly lit parking lot outside a strip mall 2 towns over. A black SUV pulled in and parked crooked. A man stepped out, tall, mid-40s, sharp eyes, a confident smirk like he'd seen every version of desperation walk his way. You're Claire? I am. I don't do extensions, he said immediately. If you're here to buy her time, don't waste mine. Claire didn't flinch. I'm here to make sure you leave her alone. He chuckled. She owes me. I don't run a charity. She doesn't owe you any more, Claire said, handing him a sealed envelope. That's the full amount plus interest. Final payment. He weighed the envelope in his hand, flipping it open. You're bailing her out, he said with a smirk. No, Claire said calmly. I'm ending her access. He raised an eyebrow. You're a cold one. No, she replied. I'm done being warm for people who burn me. He gave her a look, half amused, half impressed, and walked back to his car. Claire stood there a few seconds longer, exhaling slowly. Back home, Claire sat across from Emma, who stared down at her hands. I took care of it, Claire said. Emma looked up. You saved me again. Claire shook her head. No, that was the last time, and this time she meant the price I paid wasn't just financial, it was emotional, and it hurt more than I ever expected. Claire didn't expect gratitude, but she also didn't expect the rage. The next morning, Emma stormed into her house without knocking. Her face was flushed, her eyes wild with a fury Claire hadn't seen since she was a teenager. You had no right, Emma snapped. Claire set her coffee mug down slowly. You're safe now. That man won't come near you again. You went behind my back. You made me look weak, Emma said, voice cracking. Do you even realize what you've done? Claire blinked. I protected you from someone who threatened your safety. No, Emma said, pacing now. You humiliated me. You treated me like a child. Claire's hands clenched. Emma, you put my name on loans. You brought a criminal to your door. This is not about your pride. Emma's voice dropped to a whisper. You always have to fix everything, don't you? So you can remind me who the real adult is. Claire stared at her stunned. I stepped in because you were drowning. Emma shook her head and turned toward the door. You're not my mother anymore. You're just control in a cardigan. She slammed the door behind her. That night, Claire sat alone on the couch, the silence